Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here, and this time reviewing on Marvel Adventures Spider-Man issue number 2. Now, as you know, Marvel Adventures was Marvel's attempt in doing a kid-friendly Marvel series. That was like the pre-version to the Marvel 2010 animated universe. So the cover has Spider-Man against all of his foes, and this has kind of become kind of a nitpick of mine. So the story starts off where the story introduces how Peter Parker has defeated Doc Ock, Kraven, Sandman and all that, with no real story centered around them, and this is wasted potential. And it starts off how, in prison, two of the officers say, "But it hurts when they took their arms, huh, Doc? Now you're just like everybody else in the joint." And so Doc sleekly smiles, and the harness starts attacking the two guards, and suddenly everyone is freed thanks to the harness and reattaches to Doc Ock, saying, "Congratulations, my friends. It seems that we've all made parole." So we see Spider-Man confronting a burglar, and basically something happens to him where it turns out he ended up losing his powers slowly, and one of them says, "Let's get out of here, drive!" So basically Spider-Man starts wondering what's going on, and the officer says, "Way to go, Spider-Man, that's taking a bite out of crime." And what's interesting is that Peter basically tries to get to the school bus, but ends up late, so has to go web-slinging as Spider-Man, but something happens. His powers start failing, and he's left wondering what to do now. So we see Doc Ock with all the other villains, and says, "Gentlemen, welcome to my humble abode. This meeting will include go down in history." "Oh, what gives, Doc? Why'd you call us?" Patience, Sandman. I'm sure Octavius has a bit of a mayhem in mind." And he points out about working together and taking down Spider-Man together as the Sinister Six. So we see Peter happy that he doesn't have to be Spider-Man, despite the fact that there are a number of villains out there. So I'm guessing he's thinking that, yeah, there are other heroes for that, even though it should be him who's meant to be helping. And Spider-Man helps a guy who's getting a hard time from his boss, and enters into the Daily Bugle, and I think this was a wasted opportunity for him to have it to build up his job. And basically like, "Hey Pete, hey Betty, it's early, shouldn't you be in school?" And so Jameson shows up saying, 2 weeks and no new photo of that war-crying circus freak. I'm running a newspaper here, Parker, not a charity ward." And so he confronts Jameson and says, "You guilt, you can't quit. You're freelance, plus you're fired." And so, yeah, Peter's pretty much happy that, he's faced the wrath of John Jameson and lived to tell the tale. So the Sinister Six start attacking places, and this picture here looks like something you would see in a children's book. And so the Fantastic Four show up to stop the Sinister Six, and do so with little to no effort. And yeah, basically Sandman creates a diversion for them to get away. What's interesting is that they all basically say, "What do you mean you can't find Spider-Man? That city's lousy. We've crossed him freaks, Doc. We've seen every superhero except Spider-Man. We've lost his scent. I'll find him myself. The rest of you are to meet me at the warehouse at sundown." And so he pretty much heads off to find Spider-Man. And you've got Aunt May trying to talk with John Jameson about him, missing school for 3 days. And he's like, shouldn't see him. Please, Mr. Jameson, I'm worried about him. I fired Peter a few days ago. You fired Peter? Look, it's been a lousy week. I've got absolutely... And so Aunt May confronts Jameson, and Doc Ock shows up to take hostages, and even has Betty send a message to Spider-Man, where Betty tells Peter what's happened, and has to go with Spider-Man. And Peter's like, okay, here goes nothing. Taxi! Evening, Spider-Man. Where you headed? Pier 17, and step on it. But shouldn't you actually swing from a thread or something? I'm working on it. And so he mainly goes into the pier and heads to number 17 of the warehouse, goes in, where Doc Ock confronts Peter, and sees to his surprise that every villain he had is now out to get him, and no real story centered around it. So, what do I think? Issue 2 is not good. I think the problem is there is a wasted opportunity to build up the villains. There's wasted moments that could have been good, but it's not one of the best issues, and it feels like the writer just absolutely rushed it right in. So it deserves a thumbs in the middle. Could have been better, could have been great, but not really holding itself a candle. So, Comic Reviewy here, signing out.